Hello, friends. I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope you're doing good. I have been working on the figures for my friend Scott for his calendar project, and I tell you what, I'm getting close to being okay. I hope to give them to him on Saturday. I don't think that's a hard deadline. I think he would be okay if I had to delay a little bit longer, but I think that I could delay for the next month and not be satisfied. And at some point, when you're doing a project like this, you have to just kind of say, okay, that's all I can do. And I think I'm nearing that point. The shapes turned out to be a little more difficult than I imagined. You know, this kind of shape, I have pretty easy access to all these inside curves, but some of the shapes that I've cut for him are much like narrower little passages that I have to get inside of to clean up, and it was very difficult to do. And because of that, it's kind of ugly in there, and it'd be very difficult for me to get it completely perfect. And like I said, I could spend the next month sanding and sanding and sanding and sealing and sanding and sanding and putting body filler on it and putting primer on it and never really be satisfied. And so I think at some point I just have to say, you know what, this is what I've got, and this is what I made, and I hope that's good enough. And I'm getting to that point. I just put the first coat of paint on all of them. If I remember, I'll put a picture here so you can maybe see that. Or maybe I won't, because they're not. I probably shouldn't be sharing them. They're his thing, right? But I put the first coat of paint on, and I'm using just acrylic craft paint, and that kind of, if you've ever used that kind of paint, some of them cover really well, some of them don't, and you have to do multiple coats and try not to get runs and all this other stuff. And so it's an ordeal to make these things. Ultimately, I talked to him a little bit, and he really kind of eased my mind, because he's like, listen, it's a photograph, and I really just need a real world analog, and if I have to touch it up in Photoshop, I will, and it's not that big of a deal. Make them, what you can, and if they have little blemishes, that's fine. I can fix it. So that helped me a lot overcome the hurdle, because I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed making, like, say, the rustic stuff, I made those Christmas trees out of this rustic pallet wood, is simply because it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just kind of slap it together and be done with it. And, I've heard the adage that you can get 80% of the enjoyment out of 20% of the work. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, that perfectionism is a flaw. It's not, first of all, perfection is very rarely achievable, and it's a flaw to chase that last 20% and put in the extra 80% of effort to try to get there, because the returns, getting to this point is relatively easy. And on camera, this little guy, this isn't one of Scott's pieces, this is one of the pencil holders. This little guy on camera looks great, right? And if that's what it's going to be, then it's done. But up close, there's lots of little flaws, and the curves on this aren't quite curves. They're more like little bumps and facets, and the grain of the wood is really nasty. But if I'm just showing this to you and you go, "Yep, looks great," it doesn't need to go any further than this. And I could chase perfection on this thing forever, but I could put 2 more hours into this and hold it up on camera, and you would be like, yep, looks identical. And so is it really worth my time? I don't know. So Scott Scott kind of eased my mind a little bit when he said, just do what you can and I'll fix it. And I said, okay, that helps me, because I could punish myself over and over and over again with these little sanding sticks and these little sanding blocks and body filler and primer, and just try to make these things as smooth and as perfect as possible, and it ultimately ends up being like, something that he can touch up really quick, and it's not a big deal. So I think the more important part is getting the paint to look good, and they're kind of pastels, and they look really good. I'm actually really happy with the way the colors turned out, so hopefully it's what he wanted. I think it will be. But we'll see. So I'm going to go back to working on those. Actually, I'm going to go back to making dinner, cooking dinner tonight. So I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to put another coat of paint on them tonight before I go to bed, and then tomorrow I'll do any final touch-ups I have to do, because I'm going to see Scott on Saturday. So I'm going to take them to him, and if he rejects them, then I will bring them back and start over and do what I have to do to make it right. That's all I can do. I've given it my best. Maybe I haven't, but I've tried. So that's what I have. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being my best friends, being wonderful people. I appreciate you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact comes from Wikipedia. Where is the United Nations? The headquarters of the United Nations is a complex in New York City. The complex has served as the official headquarters of the United Nations since its completion in 1952. It is located in the Turtle Bay neighborhood of the borough of Manhattan on spacious grounds overlooking the East River.